I don't need any fair weather friends. I don't need any new friends. I sure don't need any friends who are only there during good times or warm times or something. That's not a friend at all. That's a delusion. It's an idiot lying to himself about some other idiots he's surrounded by. You have to be consistent in your own behaviors to accomplish something, but if you want to have the right accountability mechanisms, it sure helps to have high-level coaches and high-level allies of various types that might be, coach, mentor, teacher, training partners, business allies, etc. And if you can't trust those people, what are you going to do with them?
If you don't have $1 million yet, you're living a much lesser life than what could be easily available to you with the right guidance. My head coach has freed up a few spots in his calendar to hold one-on-one strategy calls with the highest quality applicants. If you're doing well already and you're looking to accelerate your momentum and do even better, click the link in the description now and apply for your strategy session. More at the end of this video.
Your goals don't mean shit if you can't hold yourself accountable to go do something. Then it's like, I guess the next level of that conversation where you say that, consistency leads to accountability, and, we'd have to include integrity in that conversation somewhere, that the importance of keeping your word when it's inconvenient. So, what is that? Accountability doesn't mean shit if you're not accountable to shit if you only show up when you feel like it or when it's convenient. And it's something that I've become extremely judgmental about, that partially because I have enough financial freedom to do that, and I just don't have to spend time with people I don't want to. And I've said that for, 15 or more years of my life, is, the number one thing that any money could buy you is, the most valuable thing money buys you is your freedom from being around asswipes that you don't enjoy. You don't have to show up at a job and pretend it's important if you don't think it is, or you don't have to, you get to be yourself, If you look at people that are significantly wealthy, some of them that were kinder-hearted, thoughtful, generous people to begin with are more generous. And rich people that are assholes, they were already assholes, they just get to be bigger assholes now. It quite literally lets you be more of who you are. It's a magnified version of that person, if that makes sense. And I don't want to spend time with assholes, and I don't want to spend time around people if I can't trust that person. I'm like an only child. I was the only grandchild on both sides. I just had a small family. I don't need a lot of attention or a lot of, external affirmations or noise. I'd rather be by myself with like a book or a documentary or just my own thoughts than be around somebody that I don't really want to be around. And when I see that, little subtle things like integrity issues with people, I'm not a saint. I did some things in my life that I wish I had a do-over on a couple things, but I never did anything that I'm truly ashamed of, or that I thought was substantially up. But people that know me forever, I keep my word very consistently. People that know me a long time would say that pretty consistently. Like, yeah, the guy, if he says he's going to do something, he'll do it. He's going to show up. He's going to do the thing he said. And when I see other people that don't do that, there's no path for a relationship. There's no path for a friendship. What am I going to do with that person? So they want to hang out with me when everything's going good and easy, but as soon as there's any, I don't need any fair weather friends. I don't need any new friends. I sure don't need any friends who are only there during good times or warm times or something. So that's not a friend at all. That's a delusion. It's an idiot lying to himself about some other idiots he's surrounded by. So I think those parts become important as well. That if you have to be consistent, in your own behaviors to accomplish something. But if you want to have the right accountability mechanisms, it sure helps to have, high-level coaches and high-level, allies of various types that might be, coach, mentor, teacher, training partners, business allies, etc. And if you can't trust those people, what the fuck are you going to do with them? Like, you really can't do anything with them. your relationship's extraordinary. You go to have a beer maybe, but you can't really go and do anything industrious or that's, high level important. It's like, what are you going to do together? It's nothing. So, I think that would be, I agree with what you said, and just building on that, I think that might be the next thing to think about, that if you want to have accountability mechanisms that matter, you have to be able to trust your own word that you'll follow through and do the shit that you said that you would do. And I think you'll find this relatable, that I think the older people in the room find this even more relatable than the young ones, because you just have more life experience of seeing this. But there's an amount of work that you're willing to do for yourself, just privately in your own mind. There's an amount of effort that you're willing to make, but there's an additional amount of effort that you're willing to make if you had, teammates, training partners, business partners, allies that are reliant on your efforts, And they've done their part in the past. They've been upright, they've been integrous, they've done their part consistently. And wouldn't you be ashamed if you didn't do the same? I hope so. I hope so. So.
You used the word embarrassing earlier. I think it's an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Not to carry your weight.
And so there's the amount of work that you would do by yourself, but you'd do even more if you had relationships with those type of people in your life. And, and so let's call that a peer group, whether that's a business ally, other people in this group, et cetera, that it'd be embarrassing to not do your part. And I think there's an even deeper level, and, Kyle touched on this earlier with one of his coaches that was very important to him, that, you do even more for, your main coach, your mentor, that, a more father figure, type person in your life, that there's another layer of that. And if I bring that back to the integrity conversation, you're going to have zero access to high quality peers, and really zero negative access to high quality coaches, mentors, if you don't keep your word consistently, if you don't follow through consistently. Like, you'll have zero people like that in your life. And at the highest levels of any particular endeavor, it's a very small world. It's a very, very small world, whether that's, a lot of these people are fighters. There's 650 people on the whole roster at UFC. Sometimes it's 630, sometimes it's 680. It floats around 650. 80% of them are never going to be anybody. There's 100 people in that whole sport that matter. There's 100 people in the world in that whole sport that really matter. And, if you take the retired ones and the coaches and so on, it's 150, 200 in the world. So, if you don't keep your word in a environment where there's 150 people in the world, 200 people maybe in the whole world that matter, how long does it take for the word to get around about you, about, hey, what was your experience like working with that guy? How many important people are at the top of the finance community? The real leaders of, financial markets. Maybe it's a few hundred more, but it's not a lot, There's a couple hundred people that matter. How many important people are there at the top of the tech industry? It's a couple hundred people that matter. So in any silo, in any niche that, you want to really be somebody, that you want to be a real leader, or, a peer of the other leaders in that area. There's things that you could do that are, might seem like small things at the time that could really still haunt you 5 or 10 or 20 years later, because somebody's like, Nobody will even say anything bad about you necessarily. It'll just be, a lack of enthusiasm for an endorsement. And any hesitation for that endorsement is all the information anybody needs. So I never want to have those type of. I don't want my peers or, teachers, coaches to ever have a hesitation to be like, no, I had a good experience with that guy, and feel confident to talk about it. And the only way to do that is to again, show up consistently, hold yourself accountable, some of that holding yourself accountable is creating high-quality peers, having high-quality coaches, mentors, teachers, that, you know, you're doing more work because it'd be too embarrassing or too humiliating. You'd never do it by yourself. But if your reputation with people that you cared about was at stake, you'd be like, man, I got to do this. It doesn't matter what you feel like. It makes no difference what you're feeling. The success gods don't care about anybody's feelings. The money gods don't care about anybody's feelings. It's total laughable joke. So yeah, so I agree with everything you said, and I think that might be the next layer of that, you know, peeling those layers apart, that to kind of tie that thought together a little more holistically, that if you can't show up for your success consistently, like, how would anybody else do that? But if you do show up for your success consistently, you'll have other peers that are in the habit of doing the same. And, you know, it also would be an embarrassment to them to not try to help out, you know, especially when it was important to you. Especially when it's important. You know, Junior was hours late yesterday, and maybe he wasn't going to come because, you know, not because he didn't want to, there's no flights. You know, he flew from Miami to Texas, and then he was having a very difficult time getting on a flight from Texas to here. They're full. And, I mean, I think you guys see the warmth that Glover and I have together. If I called Glover and asked him to come a day early, you think he'd come a day early? Do you think I want to call Glover and ask him to come a day early after he just had 3 days of abuse himself and then an important fight, and that's his first day to have a little bit of relaxation with his wife? You think his wife wants me to make that phone call? If I ask him, he'd say yes. I didn't say that to him until tonight after the talk. And he brought it up, actually. He's like, Derek, we talked yesterday, and I didn't know about the blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, you didn't know, because if I asked you, you'd say yes. And his wife's like with big eyes. So and that was kind of her way of acknowledging that, and also saying thank you to me because she knows that he would disappoint her and come show up for me, because that's the kind of guy he is, you know. So, you know, I think I said that on Thursday, that, like, you know, one of my biggest setbacks in life is I didn't have the right role models or the right people around me that I had a vision, or possibly could have, you know, I hesitated to say it this way, not because of like an egoic thing, but maybe it is, I'm not sure. But like, I didn't have the self-esteem to have a huge vision, because from where I was coming from, it would seem so unrealistic. It would be just not relatable to me at that time, you know? And I thought I had very bold goals or audacious goals. And then I exceeded a lot of those things. And I'm like, God damn it, what if I would have had bigger goals? And, you know, but, you know, and on a positive note, I thought to myself, well, if I did that, then I did it starting where I was, and I got from there to here, you know, in 5-year increment, 5-year increment, 5-year increment. And I said, well, what could I do in the next 5 years then? And what could I do in the 5 years after that, and so on, you know? So that, you know, that was a very empowering thought. But, you know, there was also a little bit of a thought of disappointment that goes with that, of like, well, you know, what if you would have started thinking about that 25 years ago? So, you know, I can't be disappointed about what I did, and, you know, for whatever it's worth, you know, not that it's worth shit, but, you know, most people at similar circumstances would do just about nothing. So it's not like I'm disappointed with myself in that way, but I am acutely aware there's a missed opportunity. And it's one of the reasons that I, you know, kind of hammer some of those points in a stark way here, and especially for some of the younger people, that, like, if you're really willing to think, you know, audaciously big without being a total idiot, and then start putting in the steps and, you know, backwards engineering, what would that look like? You know, if starting here going forward, what might that look like? Starting there going backwards, what might that look like? What would have to be true a step before that and a step before that? And playing that back and forth in your head. And the exact path won't look quite like that, but you'll have a template at least to be thinking about, you know? So if you could backwards engineer that a bit and say, well, who would I need to know? Who would I have to have alliances with? Who would I need to vouch for me? Who would I need to learn things from, et cetera, et cetera? And, you know, I mean, I guess I'd say again, imagine if you and I were, you know, you just turned 18. You could keep your brain and you just turned 18, you know? Like, would you not pay 100% of your current net worth for that opportunity? Wouldn't that be a dream? There's a thought from Friedrich Nietzsche, and I'm going to end up paraphrasing it because there's no reason I remembered the exact quote. But the essence of it was, as Nietzsche said, imagine some cruel demon made you relive, a person who's acting nonchalantly or not really living to their potential. He said, imagine that you were forced to live for eternity, and or that's not true. You were forced to you get to live your life only once, but for all of eternity, you have to watch a replay of every moment, the exciting moments, the dull moments. He said, imagine some cruel demon made you watch that. And for all of eternity, you don't get to redo it. You don't get to change anything. You only got to live your life one time as it was, but you have to relive it on repeat for eternity. And it's, how would you live differently? Would you want a lot of leisure? Would you want to sit around and do not much? You'd probably want to take some pretty bold actions at many junctures in there.
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on the right metrics and leave mediocrity far behind in your past. Click that link right now in the description below and apply for your call immediately. Do it now.